Welcome, everybody, to The Art of Being an Artist. This is episode 4. I'm here with Alex. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Alex Lowen. I'm a music producer and DJ from Monaco, now in London. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess.
How'd you get started?
We'll see how the podcast goes.
How'd you get started in DJing?
Like in music in general or just DJing?
From the very beginning, how'd you get started?
From the very beginning, okay. I'd say, the first thing I ever did was actually violin. And I hated it because I really went the academic way with like French Academy, and the way they brought it up was just a bunch of theory and things I really didn't understand at that age because I was like 6 or 7. I just wanted to play the instrument. I remember my first violin lesson. I didn't even get to play a single note. All the teacher spent doing was like, no, you're not holding it correctly. You have to hold it correctly. You have to hold it more like this. I was like, I just want to make some sound. You're a kid. You just want to have fun. And so I remember that was not a very good first impression on music for me. So after like a semester of that, I told my parents, violin is not for me. I don't want to do this. And a couple of years later, a very good, my still like childhood friend of mine who was my neighbor at the time is like, I'm going to pick up guitar lessons. You want to start with me? I said, okay, sure. And completely different experience. The teacher immediately is like, all right, we're going to play a song today. First lesson is like, get the guitar, just learn how to play. Here's the chord shapes. Here's the melody. And obviously we were terrible because we'd never played the instrument, but it was fun. We were having so much fun. And from that day, I just kept carrying on. Like all throughout my teens, I played guitar all the time with a bunch of other teachers as well. I made my own band in high school. That was a lot of fun. And when I was like 17, 18, I started to discover the world of DJing and electronic music, like house music production. Like I remember downloading like a cracked version of Logic and messing around with loops. I was like, is this how they make the stuff I hear on the radio? This is cool. And one thing led to another. I actually went to college for music. I went to Berkeley, the music school in Boston, where I studied like engineering production much more intensely. And when I graduated, I knew that I really wanted to focus my art into the electronic music realm because I really started growing a very big, strong passion for like DJing and producing electronic music. And I've been doing that since. So I graduated like over 3 years ago now. Wow, time flies.
Yeah, crazy. Right? So how was your time in Berkeley?
My time, I did 4 years there. I did 2 majors, and first of all, it was a bit of a shock because I come from Monaco. It's a very small town. I know it's kind of known worldwide for different sports events and stuff like that, and there's a bit of a music community there, but it's not as big as, say, if you come from New York or London or even Nice, which is a neighboring town from Monaco. And what happened was that when I arrived there, I was like, okay, first of all, I'm not the best at what I do at all. People here are insane, especially the musicians. You like cross the street to go buy a pack of guitar chords, and there's like a bunch of kids that are a year younger than you shredding like crazy on guitar. Immediately you feel like shit. You're like, oh my God, I don't know. What am I even doing here, But then you kind of learn your way. Because the thing I liked a lot about the school is how complete it is and how you can really focus on whatever field of music you want. Like I went there starting as a guitarist, but immediately I said, all right, I really like sound engineering, electronic production, stuff that's with synths, like that has to do with technology. And there were majors for that. There were classes for that. So I went into that direction. Some people were really into like the business side of things. They're like, there's a music business, there's a music business major, and they really went and started doing that. There's people who like do music therapy as well. You can study that and then become a music therapist. There's songwriting. I mean, so many different aspects of the industry that you can touch on at the school, which I thought was really, really cool. Like there's so many more things I wish I could have done that I didn't have time for because I was graduating. And by the time you graduate, that's only when you realize like, all right, I've learned a lot, but you're only getting at the level where you can actually fully profit from all the facilities that you have, because the school is literally insane. I was lucky to like learn on gear that I don't even know when in my career I'm going to lay my hands on gear like that again, because they have like studios that are ridiculous, and it's an amazing experience, but it's also a bit overwhelming. So just as you start getting the grasp of it, it's kind of when it's more or less the point where you're getting towards graduating. So you're like, no, I'm just starting to get this. I don't want to leave now. So that was a lot of fun. But I was also kind of happy to move forward, because I was like, all right, this is cool. I want to go in the professional world. I want to start to hustle for my own music, be an independent artist, being an independent DJ, a lot of stuff like that, try to see how record deals work, getting screwed all the way along, of course, because that happens when you're at the beginning. But I really wanted to try and go by myself in the industry and be like, all right, I'm going to go back to Europe because that's where I'm from. I'm going to try and work things out. I really like London. I'm going to go to London and started hustling from there on.
Right on. What would you say to like producers or artists who are actually thinking about getting into school for their art? Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think that they should go at it solo?
I think that's a bit of a tough question. I think that, well, there's a lot of things to take in consideration. If you really know what you want to do, maybe not. If you really know, if you say like, all right, I want to be a DJ and electronic music. If you say I want to do house music, that's all I want to do. I love house music. That's what I want to do. You might be better off trying to go to gigs in your town, network with the people in the industry. Like, okay, what are some labels I really like? Are they for a party? Are they for an event? Trying to network and learn from people in the industry directly, because you know exactly what you want to do. So it might not be worth it for you to go to a school, spend the first 2 years messing around with a bunch of classes just to experiment. Because the first year at Berkeley is general. You don't immediately start with your specification. Because I started at 18. As soon as I graduated high school, I went there. And The first year is general. You get to try a bunch of stuff so that you can kind of decide what you want to graduate in. So that's, if you already know what you want to do, I'd say that's a waste. Then obviously, like, I don't want to hide this. There's definitely the financial side of things, because like college in the US costs a lot of money. And also you have the internet today, like a lot of very basic, super helpful things you can learn from literally tutorials on YouTube, or just blog articles, or buying a book that costs $10, so you don't always have to go to school for it. I'd say if you really know what you want to do in music, I'd say don't. Try to find resources around you and try to connect with people that are in the same scene that you want to go in your area, and try to understand how that works. Because going to school, you might not meet those people. You might not. It depends. It's a bit of a gamble because you don't know how you're going to end up with. And you might spend a year or two doing stuff you don't really care about, because you have to, it's cool. So there's still a curriculum, a courses, there's still a structure to it, It's not like, hey, welcome to Berkeley, you want to do house music, you're going to do house music for 4 years, No, you have to take theory, you have to take harmony, a bunch of other classes that I liked a lot. I learned a lot from it. But if you already know exactly what you want, it might feel like you're being slowed down more than anything else. I also
feel like if you just don't have that self-push, like that self-drive to learn and do things on your own, school might be the way for you, just because it gives you like that structure. But if you know what you want, I guess it makes sense to go out and just do it yourself, because you definitely have the resources at your fingertips with the whole internet.
If you have the drive, definitely. But the cool thing that school does, though, is it really throws you into that melting pot of people who are doing the same thing as you, who really love music, that are really passionate about it. Yeah, you get surrounded by people, and it boosts you also in a way. Because when you're alone at home in your town, maybe you're working in your room all the time by yourself, like you're the only musician in your friends group, etc., etc. It can feel a bit lonely. It can feel a bit like outcasted, etc. And sometimes it can feel not very motivating because you're by yourself doing it. It takes a while as well. When you're starting, you have to grind a lot. Like it takes a lot of time, years. Like I'm still grinding a lot right now. I'm far from being done. And so that's a different aspect. When you go to Berkeley or any music school for whatever, you're surrounded with a bunch of people who want to do music. So that's a bit of a motivation. You might meet somebody cool that you end up making beats with, or some cool singers you want to record for your track. So that there's also that aspect to be held into consideration, you know.
Right. The connections that you'll make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Network is everything at the end of the day.
100%. So how did you actually land your first gig? Can you walk me through that process?
Gig, I think it started when I was in college. I started doing house parties. Like people were like, oh, we're having a party. I'm like, hey, I DJ, you need somebody to play some music? And be like, okay. And we'd bring a pair of speakers. Like I was DJing on tables, literally a table made out of a door. I remember this house party. Like I wouldn't go too often. It was just like cinder blocks and a broken door laid flat on top of it. And it's like, yeah, here's your table, work with it. I'm like, okay. And you're in some basement with a bunch of college kids, everyone partying. So it was fun. And from there on, I also took classes and met with other DJs who were DJing more like official gigs, professional gigs in Boston. And I started playing like a club from time to time, opening for this DJ to kind of get a feel of the equipment, a live setting in an actual professional club with actual clients that do not care about you at all. They want to be there to party, and it's your job to make it a good night for them. So you start learning these things. But yeah, I started off really doing parties for free, just for the fun of it, and slowly building my way up to trying to get paid gigs, either private or club gigs, and just exploring that way. And I'm still exploring today. Now it's a bit of a rough time for DJs, I'm going to be honest, because everything is shut down. Like all the clubs, bars, every place for live music and gatherings are shut down. So the DJ industry is not in perfect shape right now, because everybody's just at home sitting like, all right, when's everything opening? And then it's going to be a bloodbath when everything opens as well, because everyone's going to jump on every single occasion they have. It's weird. It's weird. This has never happened before.
How do you feel? How do you feel about all the DJs going to live streams?
I think that's great. I've done a lot myself. When there was the very heavy quarantine going on in France and Italy, I was doing a live stream every day of an hour, just so I could even just for me, it helped me, I think, because I was hanging out with friends and family and just playing music for people. And I think that so many DJs are doing that is great, because it's kind of a live distraction that people can have. You get to discover a lot of music. You kind of get to see DJs in a more relaxed state at home. Like they don't have a crowd when they're live streaming. So the energy is obviously going to be different. They might not be trying to play the craziest records for the club. They might have a selection that's more like, oh, here's some stuff I like. So it's a bit of like an insight into their music library as well. And I think overall people enjoy it, and it's good for people because everyone's locked inside. No one can really do much. And it's like, oh, this guy's doing a set, let's listen for 2 hours, and maybe you have a drink with your partner or whatever, and it's kind of a little evening activity.
How about your TikTok game? Are you on TikTok right now? Are you making videos?
I am on TikTok. I'm not being nearly as active as I wish I was, because I guess it's just like a self-esteem thing, you know. Sometimes you post something and you're like, oh, you're making an ass out of yourself, but you gotta I really try to throw that out the window and not think of it as like, no, I'm making content that I like, that I think is fun, and I just want to try and have fun doing that. I definitely need to get more on TikTok. I try to be a bit more consistent with Instagram, posting like little videos or pictures, but TikTok, I definitely need to up my game. But I like it. It's a fun app. You get addicted to it so fast. So you start watching one, next thing you know, an hour and a half have passed. You're like, oh, I got to get I gotta do something about this. You just get sunk and like trapped in it so bad.
It's scary how fast it like pulls you in. Like even, oh man, like you said, I'll go on to post something and then I'll get caught in the feed and then I'll forget why I even went on there. But
no, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's definitely crazy.
I think the thing that's holding most people back from content, including myself, is the FOPO, and that's the fear of other people's opinions. Because
that's a huge factor.
It's like it's so sneaky to you because you barely know that it's there, that you even fear other people's opinions, but you really do, because that's why you're so hesitant in like pushing content. Like I'm having trouble staying consistent myself, and that's just something I got to work on. But it's definitely something I think as a creator and as an artist, we all have to work through.
100% agree. Myself as well. Sometimes I have streaks where I'm really consistent, and then I hit that one post and I'm like, maybe this is shit. And then a day or two goes past and you lose consistency really easily. And
yeah, and
it's weird. It's weird how it works, because like you said, it creeps in, like it just gently creeps in and makes you completely change. You might be super positive about something one day, and the next day you're like, I need to delete this. This is horrible. Just because of that. And I try to think of that as little as possible. Like in quarantine, I started to make little funny videos that just for myself, because I want to get better at making little skits or whatever. So I'm going to do like pick up my guitar or just film funny stuff and then chop it up on the computer, and just not caring and putting it out, even though I'd never done that before. I'd never put myself in front of a camera for a video of anything. And like, I was overwhelmed by the actual support I got from it.
Yeah.
At first I thought like, oh my God, so many people are going to judge me or whatever. And it's actually the complete opposite. Everyone's like, oh dude, your videos are cool. They're funny. Good job. Like good friends, family. They're like, oh, it's funny. We're really having a good time watching your stuff. And those are the same people that at the start you were thinking, oh my God, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? And it really gets to you, especially, I guess, when you're our age, when you're in your 20s or like teens and stuff like that. I guess that fades away with time, hopefully, and with practice. But I ramble a lot. Huh? This is my first podcast, so if I speak too much,
I'm glad to have you on the first podcast. And I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I definitely find that there's like a tipping point where like you're kind of like hesitant, you don't really want to post, but right when you do post, I feel like it's just like all uphill from there. Because like the engagement that you can get back, it's not on every post. You definitely have those ones that are doing worse, and you might even get a few hate comments, but for the most part, I think it's a positive. And you grow every time you put out something and you share a little piece of yourself. I really love that.
Yeah, no, I definitely love it. Hate, I'm too small to be getting whatever amounts of hate right now, but I'm sure that if I keep grinding, at some point it's going to show up. Sometimes they make me laugh. Like I'll read a comment and it makes me laugh, because I'm like, really, man? Like, I'm nobody. Why are you sending this to me? Like, what are you doing? So I try to laugh about it instead of having it like tear me down. But yeah, as soon as you post it, you start growing, as you said. It's just like a bit of a relief as well. It's like, I did it. Yeah. Even though it's such a small thing.
Honestly, I don't even get a confidence boost from like the amount of likes or comments. It's just the fact that I put it out there, that like I got the courage to post it. And it sounds like such a simple thing, just like putting a picture up or a video, but it goes much deeper than just a post. It's being confident with yourself and how you are and what you like to make. I think that's really important.
Definitely. Just try, and you learn as you go. Because it's, especially on Instagram, it's so easy to look at content. There's like, oh my God, that looks amazing. And then you post your stuff and like, oh, my stuff looks like shit. It's like, yeah, maybe that stuff looks amazing, but that person has a photographer, probably an editor, someone who's doing like color grading. Like you don't know what that content has sifted through before landing on your page, you know? Like when you're starting, of course, it's going to look homemade. Like you don't really have a choice. And that's kind of what people like at the start as well, because it's like, oh, this is cool, this is relatable. Like if right off the starting block, you're posting stuff that almost makes you feel distant in comparison to your audience because it's at that high of a level and they don't even know who you are. They're going to be like, hey, whatever. But if you look a bit dorky or quirky, people are like, this guy's funny. Let's follow him. Or
yeah, it's authentic. And I feel like people like to watch the growth, like seeing you go from like a bedroom producer to like a full studio and like that whole journey of getting there.
Definitely. They really like the evolution of things, like a lot. And because it's kind of like, I guess, bragging rights as well. Like you always see on these videos, etc. Like when an artist starts to blow up, there's always going to be people commenting how about like, I was there since that song, or I was there since that show, or I've been here like true fans like this, true fans like that. So it's kind of, people kind of like that as well. They kind of put themselves into that club by themselves and they just enjoy it because they watched you grow. So it's a bit weird, but I understand why people do it and I understand the appeal to it.
So what has your experience been like with the community in the club scene, DJing there, other artists? Do you find it's very supportive? Is it very competitive? What's the scene like?
Both. It's very supportive, but also very competitive. Like people will not hesitate to tell you when you're doing a shit job, like at all. So, but also like DJs usually like, it's a bit of a tight knit community. Like everyone tries to bring. There's going to be bad experiences like in everything, but in general, I think it's a very positive energy, especially in London. You meet a lot of smaller DJs and even bigger DJs from bigger clubs, and they just try to push you forward, especially when you're kind of new and young to the scene. To be like, hey, I'm DJing there tonight. Let me know if you want to come check me out. I'll add you on the guest list so you can come in and watch my set, you know. And that's really great insight because you get to see a professional who's been doing it for years perform live. So you learn a lot from watching people. A lot of them, if you ask them questions, they won't hesitate to answer. I have a good friend who called Alex as well, who kind of took me by his side. Like we do a lot of production together, and he's helping me out with DJing. In London, like he's DJed everywhere in London. He DJs everywhere around the world for like private events and stuff like that. And so he's a great mentor. Definitely find great mentors, that's for sure. But the DJing thing is it's a tight-knit community. Like things go around fast. If there's one DJ that starts shitting on everyone, everybody's going to know and nobody's going to really want to work with him. Because maybe you might have this club promoter who knows you, this club manager who knows you, and you might get booked. But at the end of the day, in the music industry in general, I've noticed that if you're a bit of an asshole, people don't want to work with you and they just move along, you know. I've seen some huge DJs and some huge acts in studios, and they come towards me and say, hey, how are you doing? Like, thanks for being in the session. I'm like, whoa, this guy who's huge, who tours the world, who sold I don't know how many records, comes and says hello to me in the session. Like it's nothing, you know. Literally the people who are the most confident in their craft are usually the nicest. They are the ones who have the longer lasting careers. That's what I've noticed. Like you see some huge acts that are just so humble, and that's really, really nice to see that a lot of people are very supportive, even at the highest level. Because they could totally be people who are like, I don't want anyone with me in my session. I want to be alone with the engineer. It's my music. I don't want anybody copying me, whatever. They're at the level where they could do this, and people will be like, okay, no problem. But they don't. They're always happy to have a young guy in the studio or a young guy in the club trying to work out how the industry works, because ultimately that's how they started too. So I guess it's really nice to see that.
I love that because exactly like you said, they probably start out like that themselves. They were that young kid once in the studio, and they probably had mentors that helped them along the way. So to pass it along, I feel like is an amazing way to use your gifts and really show your talent and help up and comers. Yeah. I vibe with that.
No, that's definitely great. And you learn so much, because I'd say to all the people who want to start in the music as well, just even if you have to go to a studio to take out the trash and clean the windows, if you get to be in the sessions, like especially if in electronic music or in production, on the production side of things, like I've learned so much from literally just being in the room, like not getting paid, not having hands-on work, not doing nothing, just being in the room and paying attention. Just that has brought me so much value, because you get to see how professionals work. So not only can you like copy their work ethic and the speed at which they move around, but you also get to see like hands-on techniques of songwriting, production, engineering. You're like, oh, how did you do that sound? Oh, he did that. Oh, that's so cool. I had no idea. Stuff that you might not find online, or you might not find in a school. Literally, like the stuff that the actual on the ground, I don't know how to phrase this. The stuff that you can actually see live in the actual industry as it's moving along is priceless, because you're in it. There's no course on that. That's what's happening now. That's how it's been done now.
Right.
So that's really like super insightful. And when on top of that, you have these DJs or producers who I wouldn't say take you under their arm, but just are nice to you and say hello, even if then you have no other interaction, it just motivates you, you know. It's like, oh, these people are cool and they're doing amazing stuff and they're so humble. It's like a great mindset to have, to just see those people in action.
Yeah, one thing that I've really found being in like producing more and getting more into making content is that it's really not that far away, the dream or what you're trying to pursue. I feel like every day that you work at it, it gets closer and closer to where you want to go. And it almost seems like when I first started, talking to a DJ or a producer would seem so out there, even just talking to one and having that conversation. But now it seems more natural and part of everyday life. And that's really cool how just the progression of time and work really can lead to that.
Yeah, consistency is the key, and consistency is definitely what I struggle the most with as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really, because I'm still at the beginning of my career, etc. And I have a lot to learn how to go forward, but definitely being consistent and never giving up. Those are the two things I would say to people who want to make it in the music industry, because any big act that you look at, they've had to struggle, they've had to hustle, they've had some shitty years, some even have had some horrible decades before even making a record that was known by everyone, but they just kept at it. The one way to be sure you'll never make it is to just stop and don't do it. So I definitely like keep going no matter how hard it gets, and trying to be consistent, because we all start with like these huge, crazy dreams of ours of what it is to make it. And they seem super overwhelming and impossible at first. But as you said, if you every day you put in the work, like slowly you start chipping away. And then once you start gaining momentum, like, oh, this is going somewhere. This is nice. And it's all of a sudden out of nowhere, it feels totally possible, totally feasible. Even though like maybe a year back, it felt like the biggest accomplishment ever or the most impossible thing to do.
Straight facts. I love that. And the other thing I would take into consideration is if you're in the music industry, this is a long-term play. I wouldn't expect any like ROI, no return on your investments for, I don't know, at least 5 years, probably even more like 7. It can even go up to 10 or past that, but this is definitely a long-term play that you have to slowly work at, and eventually you'll get to where you want to go. But patience is the other big one that you really have to have in this industry, or just in life, I guess. Like if you want something that really matters to you, it's not going to be instant.
It definitely takes a lot of time. Like I'm far from being out of it. Like I thought like, okay, I'm going to graduate. Maybe I'll hustle for a year or two and then I'll be there and I'll be doing it and start touring. No, not at all. Because first of all, along the way, not only do you get closer to your goal, but you also start to learn how much work you need to put in to actually get there. Because you don't even know. Sometimes you're like, oh, I want to do this, but you don't even know the amount of effort it goes into actually doing it, because you've never done it. And then when you see some people do it, you're like, wow, it takes all this stuff. Okay, I got to get to work and really get on the level, because you not only learn new skills, but you learn also what it takes to do that as you go along the way. And it takes a while. It takes years, depending on the scene you're in. Like people get very like stressed out about the age they're at. Like, oh my God, I'm turning 25 and I'm not famous yet. I'm never going to be famous. Like if that's your goal, if being famous is your goal. But if you look at different artists, some blow up in their 40s, some blow up in their 30s. So yeah, obviously there's the Justin Biebers of the world who blow up when they're like 15 or 16 and become huge. But the journey is also very important, like how you get there, all your struggles, they kind of build you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people who've made it in the industry who are older, I've seen in interviews, they're like, they all say more or less the same thing. They say, I'm happy I got famous later. I'm happy I got famous when I was in my 30s or mid 30s or late 30s, because I had all this, I felt, because I was more grounded. Right. Because then they'll give examples of kids like Justin Bieber. It's like, dude, I understand why sometimes they do stupid things. Like they're 17, they're millionaires, they have all the media attention of the planet on them. They can't lift a finger without having a blog post written about it. Like, of course, something's going to go sideways. And even, I don't think that, well, I don't know, I'm probably too young to say this, but even today, I wouldn't see myself becoming famous today. I don't even know how I would handle it. I'd be like, I don't feel totally prepared. I guess you'd never really feel prepared because it hits when it hits. But success hits whenever. You don't decide when that hits. You just have to work hard until it does. And I think that it takes a lot of maturity to not completely lose your shit once things start speeding up to what you actually want to do. And you have to be prepared, because if you're not prepared, it's going to fly by you and you're going to be like left struggling back at it. It has happened to me, like for DJ set, for instance, like something a bit more concrete. There was this place where I was DJing downstairs, and I really wanted to DJ upstairs, like the main room. And I kept telling the DJ, dude, I think I'm ready. He's like, I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're ready for that type of crowd, etc. It's like, dude, I'm a fast learner. I'm ready. I was not ready. And he's like, okay, you're ready. So he gave me a small night. I went up and I completely fucked it up. I completely messed it up. And I felt terrible. And he was just looking at me like this, smiling. He's like, I told you. And I was like, yeah, you told me. It's like, all right, we got work to do. And so sometimes mentors will do stuff like this. Like, okay, you think you're ready, and they'll give you a shot knowing fair well that you're going to mess up, just so you understand. So, because sometimes without failing, you don't really understand what it takes to actually make it.
100%. Sometimes you need that little slap in the face to really get you going.
Definitely. Doesn't feel good, but I think it's worth it.
So what are some ways that you work through the rougher times, the times where you're feeling really low and just not really there to do the work? Is there something that you do or watch or anything to kind of get you through that?
Those are very difficult because it's ups and downs are always there. Like to all the upcoming artists, there's going to be moments where you just feel like quitting, like you don't even feel like getting out of bed in the morning. You're like, what? This is useless. Or maybe you got a call from a friend or parent or whatever that was like, hey, try to get more of a steady job in the steady thing, etc. Then you see all the people growing around you who are getting traditional jobs, whatever. So like on the short term, it can kind of really feel discouraging because you see all the people moving along and you might feel like you're stagnating because you're trying to do your own thing. But you have to realize that takes years, sometimes decades for one. And then just try to power through it is one, even though that's quite vague. What do? I try to work out, definitely. Working out definitely helps when I'm at a low, because even if you hate working out, just like whatever the body releases when you're working out, it makes you feel better. I know I always feel better after a workout. No matter how shitty my mood is, if I do a workout, I'll always feel better after it.
100%.
Cutting off a bit. I don't know if you said something.
Oh, I just said 100%. Your brain is they're chemicals, and they constantly need to be balanced. And the way to balance that is through eating, exercising, and sleep. And
yeah, eating, definitely eat. Too many people don't eat. Too many of you like fast for like 18 hours a day. Like, what are you doing? Get some food in your belly. No wonder you're losing it and feeling terrible. You need to eat. I see too many people who don't eat. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, they'll just be like 16 hours straight in studio. Whew.
I know. Oh, I know. And then they feel down. It's like, of course you feel down. Eat some sugar. You're gonna be fine.
I don't know about sugar, but anyways, so yeah, that's good stuff. What about your morning routine? Is there a specific thing you do every day?
My quarantine morning routine hasn't really been a morning routine. It's been more of a late afternoon routine.
Oh, okay, it's one of those.
My sleep schedule's been all over the place. Oh no, it's a mess. I need to start being steady. Self-discipline is very difficult. That's one thing I still struggle with a lot. Like I just like wake up at a steady hour and start working. I'll still get the hours in, but like I need to be much more diligent about. I want to try and wake up in the mornings just so I get a full day, you know. But there's those days where you hit snooze one too many times and you're like, ah, oh, shit, I gotta get out of bed and start doing things. But yeah, usually like I'll wake up. The first thing I do when I wake up, I eat immediately because I'm always starving when I wake up, always. So I eat something. And then I'll do like the more mundane tasks. Like I'll start with non-creative things to get my brain going, like emails, left post stuff, or like little errands, stuff that you need to take care of, like maybe accounting, or maybe I need to send a business email to somebody, or replying with messages, or I need to transfer a file to this person. Little things that don't really take up any creativity, just to get the brain going. And then I'll start working on music for a couple of hours. If a project doesn't feel right, I'll pause it, go to another one, then come back. But yeah, I definitely try to start with like eating, a bit of like brain work, mundane brain work to get it started. Then I working out in the morning definitely helps. I love the energy it gives me throughout the entire day. If I wake up in the morning for once, because I don't usually do.
Hey, honestly, as long as you get the hours in, I really don't feel like you have to wake up in the morning. If you still put in the same amount of hours, I think it's okay.
Yeah, getting the hours in is the most important. A lot of people get caught up in like, oh my God, I have to sleep 6 hours, otherwise I'm not going to get up on time. It's like, sleep 8, just work 2 more at the end of your day. Just depend. If someone's doing a 9 to 5, and you want to work more than that, you can start at 12, but just finish at midnight, and you'll work 12 hours, and you'll have put in the hours in. So it doesn't really matter that much. And sleeping is important as well. Like, too many people don't sleep enough. I know that you see a bunch of gurus on the internet who are like, sleep 4 hours, do this, or like sleep 3 hours and take 2 naps during the day. It's like, for me, that doesn't work at all. If it works for you, so be it. You feel free to try it. But I know for me, like, I need a full night's sleep. Otherwise, I actually lose. If I sleep like 5 hours and I try to do a full work day, I'm not as efficient.
Not as productive. Like, it's just
exactly
the same energy.
I lose efficiency. I lose focus, and I'll almost get less done in more hours than what I would have gotten done if I just like slept a regular amount, you know.
Right. You need to get your quality up to where it's supposed to be. And yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest things, is staying consistent with your day and your schedule, because if your body knows what time it's going to get up and what time it's going to bed, it can really help move everything forward. And I kind of see the music industry / yourself as a brand, as an artist, as a snowball, because you start really rough and rickety and not much things are kind of going. But once you start exercising, you start eating well, and you start making better habits, learning more, it just gets bigger and bigger until the snowball finally tips over. And that's your one breaking point. That's like the one piece of content, the song that kind of blows you out.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing that gets more exposure than anything else, and then it starts rolling.
Yeah, so I feel like it's just working up to that moment where you get your big break. And you
exactly.
Yeah, 100%. You got to win.
But even then, don't stop. Like me, I just want to keep going. And even if that happens, because if you get your big break and then you stop, it's like, oh, I made it. Then you're a one-hit wonder, you know. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I don't. I know that when I get the big break or whatever you call it, once it starts rolling, I want to keep going. I'm like, all right, it's fine. For me, that's the start. That's not the arrival. To a lot of people, it's like they have to get there. I mean, like me, I want to start. I want that to start. Like to me, that's the start of the next journey, the next step, everything that comes after, you know.
So Alex, for yourself, what is the main goal? What are you trying to achieve with your life?
My main goal, okay, so for me, I'd like to make it as an electronic music act, mostly around house music, I'd say, and producing great quality records with great artists. That's also a really good goal of mine. I want to get better at production so I can work with amazing people, because there's so many people that are amazing at music, and I want to get to the level where I can work with them and work on things with them. And that would be like great for me, because I think I'd learn so much from them. Hopefully they'd learn something from me. And I feel that could take me to the next level as a musician, as a producer, and as a DJ as well. I'd like to start doing it as a DJ, but that's on the artist side of things. Like we'll see if some of my tracks work out or whatever. I'll keep putting some tracks out. I keep working on music all the time. Just for the sake of it, because I love it. And I know that if I stop, I don't know what I would do with my creativity. And hopefully someday this pays off, we will see. But definitely that, like making some killer tracks with some killer musicians, that's a great goal for me.
Right on. How's it been? Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. No, go for it.
I was just going to ask how it's been taking a marketing class on the side, kind of propelling you.
That definitely, that helps. 100% helps, because you need to know about the business side of things. Like being creative is amazing. You definitely need to work at that every day. But knowing kind of how the industry you're in works, knowing the gears of it, helps to navigate it so you don't get screwed along the way. Because like in terms of marketing, it helps to market yourself, but it also shows you a bit how other people do it. You get to see how other people do it, and you get to see what works for them and what are they doing right. And you can try and apply that to yourself, and it helps you grow as well, because too many people only focus on doing music, but then they have no presence online. They don't have a lot of music anywhere. And I'm definitely guilty of this. Like I should have more content out there for sure. But too many people think that my music will speak for itself. And that might be the case if you have one big hit. But until then, you're definitely better off trying to learn marketing techniques, or how to like grow a following, things like this. Because what's the point of spending all these hours making music that you love, and then you put it out and nobody listens to it? Like at the end of the day, if you really want to be a performing artist, you have to have people listen to your music, and you have to want to have people listening to it, and you want to share it with people. Like I don't know a single successful artist who releases a song and doesn't want anybody to listen to it. They're like, I want to share this with you. I want as many of people to listen to my art and see what it does. Like, how does it affect them? Do they like it? Do they hate it? Like, it's like we love sharing our creations as artists, and learning marketing builds up a following, so that when you do, there's actually a response to what you're posting. You're not just blankly posting.
Yeah, it's definitely like a big part of the joy of an artist is to share the work, the creation that they've made, and to get that feedback. I think a lot of, especially up and coming artists, are looking for that feedback of how they can improve, make their music better, what people like, what they don't like. Do you think the best way is just to ask the audience? Do you take, do you send your music to other artists to maybe get it looked at? Or do you just...
yeah, I definitely share my work with other people in the industry. Like if I have a track, the thing is, there's a difference between sharing it with people in the industry and sharing it with like your friends and family or people you know who are not in the industry. because the people in the industry will have a much harsher objective view of it, which is good, because we're like, all right, this is good. Maybe this verse is not right. This chorus needs a bit of changing, and your mix is messed up in the high end, you know. But it won't always be a very emotional response from the music industry. It will be more like a very direct, like what's good, what's bad, purely in terms of like writing, production, mixing. If you show to like your mom and your friends, you're just getting an emotional response. Like, do they like it? Do they hate it? And I'd say try to show it to both. But when you're showing it to your friends or the people you know who are not in the industry, try to pick a group that might be interested by this sort of art in the first place.
Right.
Because if you're showing like a hip hop trap beat to somebody who only listens to Mozart, of course they're going to tell you it's crap and they hate it. And that might affect your work and be like, oh, this is bad, I need to redo it. While maybe you have an amazing hip hop track. So you have to be careful with that. Sometimes it's cool because all your friends are like, yeah, it's awesome, keep going. And it puts a big smile on your face. And sometimes your mom's like, this is garbage. What are you doing? I hate this music. And it's like, yeah, but mom, like it's not music for your age. You know, like you have to be careful to how you show it to, and be objective about the criticism you receive as well. But share it, 100% share it. You need feedback. You always need feedback. It's always important to get out of your own head, have somebody listen to it with fresh ears and give you like feedback. Because when you've been working on a song for like 40 hours and you've been doing all that for a week and you've listened to it like over 1,000 times on repeat because you're editing everything, you need an external point of view for sure.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed is really understanding that there's a time and a place for everything. I'll give one story where I was actually traveling Spain and I went to Barcelona and I went there to actually DJ. And
oh, really?
DJ as well. Yeah, I'm a DJ as well. I ended up not getting any gigs at the clubs, which is what I was hoping for. But I ended up getting this one gig on like a patio for like dinner. And I'm like, looking back on it now, it's so cringy, but like I'm a bass house DJ / producer. So like that's kind of the realm I go into. And so like all I had with me was like my USB, which had all this bass house on it. And they're like, yo, can you like play this dinner? And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to take any gig I can get. So they're all just trying to eat it.
And you're just smashing the beat back. Bass house.
They're all just sitting down, look at me. It's like, yeah, so definitely a time and a place for everything. And going back to like just making music and sharing it with people, you definitely have to know your crowd. And that's one thing I've definitely learned from that experience. If you make dubstep, for example, you don't want to be like, exactly like you said, you don't want to be showing someone who normally wouldn't listen to dubstep because they're not going to vibe with it. And I guess this is part of growing and learning, is that you come to understand these things and how every genre, every music, every vibe has its own place and time. And as a creative, as an artist, you've really got to understand when and where to put it into.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing about showing it to somebody who might vibe with it, that's if you're looking for constructive criticism. If you're just looking for general criticism, show it to anyone. But also like the time and place thing is so important. Like as a DJ, I think that the most difficult skill there is, and the one that really the huge DJs like Carl Cox, for instance, that they're huge house DJs that are known all over the world, have mastered, it's reading a crowd. Because you can have all the technique in the world. I've had a bunch of DJs tell me this, like I had amazing technique. I went to this club and I was listening to this guy and I felt like, oh, his transitions aren't good or whatever. I can do this better. And then you go and you're not doing it better because you might have amazing transitions and amazing techniques, but you're not reading the crowd. Like that guy might mess up a transition or two, but everybody in the crowd in the club is having a great time, and the crowd is really vibing and going with it, you know. And that's definitely the hardest skill, reading the crowd. Because if you if you don't know how to do that, you can have all the skill in the world, you can have all the music in the world. If you don't know what to play at the right time, you're just going to crash and burn, because people are going to get bored and they're going to leave the dance floor, and you're going to be DJing for nobody. And with DJing on an empty dance floor and trying to get people back on it is very difficult.
Yeah, and as a DJ, I feel that we're so worried about all the little technical transitions, effects, what you're using when, where the crowd doesn't care. They just want to hear the song that they want to hear, and they want to just be bumping. So as long as
they want to have a good time.
Yeah, they want a good time. They don't really care about the technical side for the most part. And I feel like if you can pick the right songs that will fit well with the crowd, that is what's going to propel you in the end.
For sure. I feel that, okay, if your name's on the flyer and it's your event and people are coming to see you, you do whatever the hell you want, because people are there to see you, because it's your name on the flyer, it's your name on the club. So you know that the people that are coming are probably going to vibe with you and your music, because you're DJing the night. You still work to be done, etc. Like if you're a big act. But if you're not known, if you're just doing your job as a DJ, like you're not when you go there, you have to DJ for the club and for the people that are there. You can't just DJ for yourself, playing your own music and be like, oh, my transition was killer. It's like, yeah, but is anybody dancing? As you were saying, like you have to splitting that mindset, putting the ego on the side and be like, I need these people to have fun right now and to do my job properly as a DJ. That's what it is. Even if it means playing a couple of tracks that you might hate or think are cringy or aren't fine. It's like, hey, you took the gig in this setting with this crowd. You knew what you were getting yourself into. Now you have to play the part, you know?
Facts. Like, for instance, I live in like about an hour outside of Vancouver. That's like West Canada. And I did this one gig at a bar where it seemed like everyone was just playing what they liked. It was really weird because there was like a lineup of DJs. There was like a little event. And like, it was weird. One person would go up, play some house music. The next person would just play like electro, and it would just bounce all over the place. And it's because these were all beginner DJs not knowing how to read the crowd. And that's why it was so inconsistent throughout the night. And you really have to like exactly like you said, like these are all beginners and they're just trying to figure themselves out. But the hardest part is like putting your ego to the side, like you said, and really like playing for the people, because that's essentially what you are. You're a service to them.
Definitely. But like inconsistencies of lineups, I wouldn't always blame them on the DJs, because obviously if you're a DJ that plays like dubstep and you're a dubstep DJ, you're going to play dubstep, unless you've been booked for a gig that's completely different. Like if the promoter makes a lineup of only beginner DJs that have all different styles, that's a bit on him as well. Like I wouldn't say that it's only the DJ's fault for coming in and not being consistent with each other. It's like you could have the biggest festival in the world if you have acts following each other that are completely vastly different. Of course, there's not going to be a lot of synergy within the crowd, because those acts are there and they're supposed to do their thing, and they're not going to completely change their artistry or vibe according to the act that comes before or after. In DJs, it's a little easier. Maybe like you can play stuff that's a little closer to this to the previous guy set to start with, and end with maybe a track or two that are closer to what the next guy is going to do, to kind of ease the crowd into it. That's usually a good thing to do. And if you're DJing with other people, as a DJ, look up what they do, look up what they play, so that you can be prepared to be like, if you're opening for someone, make sure that you're playing the right music. You're not just playing his tracks or huge bangers or trying to overshadow the main act, for instance. If you're opening, you have to be an opener, and being a good opener is getting the crowd warmed up so that when that guy takes place, everyone's on fire and they can just smash it, you know. If you're closing, have a set that's ready for closing. Listen to what the previous guy does and slowly weave them into your closing set, you know. You can't always come out storming out of the gate like you're at Tomorrowland and everybody's there to see you, you know. Like you really have to adapt, and playing smaller clubs helps with that. smaller clubs and bars, playing places where people do not give a shit about who you are definitely builds character and tough skin, because you're there and you're DJing for people who don't care. And they're some of the worst gigs, but you learn. You're like, all right, I got to make these people dance. How? It's your job and you have to figure it out.
What is your tagline when someone asks for a request that you don't have?
Well, first of all, I try to have it. People need to understand that obviously DJs can't have everything all the time. That's like being mad at a library because they don't have the book you want. It's like, okay, we're a library, we have a lot of books, but we don't have all the books on the planet. The same way with the DJ. Of course, if someone asks for like a huge track and you're playing open format set, you're playing commercial music, you're supposed to have it. Like you're supposed to have top 40. If you're doing a top 40 gig and you don't have top 40, then it's you messing up. But if somebody asks for something that you don't have, and that I try to get it. Now there's Wi-Fi, internet, you can pull out a laptop, download it almost really fast. But if I really can't, because I'm DJing with USBs, I'll try to find something similar to play to them, and I'll definitely take note of it. I'll note it and I'll go get it. If I really can't get it during my set, I'll go get it later so I know I have it. So if that person comes back to the club and I'm DJing and they ask for that song again, then you have it. But some requests, if it's private, if you're DJing a private event, you play whatever they want. If they have 5,000 requests every hour, you play their 5,000 requests. It doesn't matter. I usually have a little block of paper. I'd be like, hey, if you want to request, write it down. If I'm in the middle of a set, or usually they just come up to me and tell me, but it just starts to be a lot. Some gigs you do that are private, people come up and they keep coming up and they keep coming up and they keep coming up. And you have to be careful with that, because you want to play what they want because it's private, but you also want a bit of coherence in your set. It has happened to me that I did a set and the crowd was just all over the place in terms of age. There were people who were 18 up to people who were 85 and everyone in between. And you're supposed to make everybody dance. It's basically impossible, because a young person will come up, is like, hey, can you play this hip hop track? Yeah, no problem. While you're playing that request, an older person comes up, it's like, hey, this music is not good. Can you play a funk and disco? It's like, all right, you play a funk and disco track. And then all the young ones come back like, no, stick to more modern stuff. And it's almost impossible to make people happy at that point, because the crowd is basically fighting with each other, you know? Yeah. So at that point, try to stick with the little group that's dancing and go with them. But definitely be careful not to get overwhelmed. It's okay to say no. It's your job also as a DJ to look at the crowd, look at the mood. If what they're asking is going to kill the vibe that you have going on right now, be like, okay, I'll make note of it. I'll play it a little bit later. I'll weave into it. Like, maybe don't say no directly, or tell them I'll play it later. Later, I'm going to speed it up. Right now, I'm doing hip hop. Later, I'll do a bit more funky. Happy to play it then. Try to find a middle ground with them. But some people don't give a shit. Some people are drunk and they're like, I want this now, please, now. Those are the worst. Because like, no, I'm not playing Despacito. I already played it twice and you're not tipping and I'm not doing this type of music right now. Jesus. So sometimes don't feel bad about saying no. Because literally you could destroy the vibe in the club. And if you do that by playing somebody's requests, because you're making one person happy, but you might be making 20 other people not happy. And if you fuck that up, that's when the managers and the promoters, then that's when they start barking. Because those people in the industry, they never tell you when you're doing a good job. They only tell you when you mess up. Like managers and promoters, they might tell you at the end of the night, oh, you did good tonight. But on general, they'll come speak to you when something's going on that's not right. So to all the DJs who are starting out, don't feel like you need the pat on the back all the time. Just know that if you're doing your job and nobody's like complaining, that's already a good start. And be careful with requests. Try to do them if they fit what you're doing, and if the person's been nice as well. Because some people are just rude. Literally, some people, they come to you and it's like, hey, can you... They're not even, hey, hello. They're like, some don't even speak to you. Some, they just take their phone with the song on it and they just go to your face and they're like, this, I want this. And you're like, really, dude? No, go back to your seat. Come, you want something? You come speak to me like I'm a normal human being. So don't be afraid to shy away people who are being blatantly rude because they're just disrespecting you. But if they're nice, and it's okay. If they come, be okay and be comfortable with it, because people are going to come up and ask you for stuff. Be comfortable and try to be prepared. If I'm at a private gig, the first thing I do, I ask for an internet connection. It's like, hey, do you have Wi-Fi so I can connect my computer? There's a request, maybe I don't have it. I can get it like this, so there's no problem. So there's no friction, because you don't want to be at a private gig and not have the songs that they want, because they're really paying you to play for them specifically. So definitely do that all the time. There's always ways of backing up. In a club, it's more difficult. Definitely more difficult in a club. But you learn as you go. Sometimes you'll have good requests, most of the time not so good. And you have to be the judge, because every situation is different.
Yeah, going back to affirmations, I would always be the first few times I DJ, I would make a sick transition. I've been practicing for so long. It'll just go so smoothly, and I'll look around for someone to be like, good job. But no one's going to be like that.
Nobody cares.
No, it's because you're doing your job, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make it sound smooth. And
exactly.
People are just waiting for that next track to like hype up. So that's one thing, is you definitely gotta, you gotta.
Nobody starts clapping because a chef cooked the pasta, right? They're like, no, you're supposed to. They're like, otherwise restaurants would be chaos. So it's fine. Like, and also you feel it. When you're having a good set, you feel it. You feel that there's good energy, and you feel that energy has been transmitted to the people. So you don't really need affirmation. You can just feel it. You know when it's going right, and you know when it's not. It's just reading the vibe in the room.
Do you find yourself getting nervous during sets or before, or is it tend to be pretty stable?
It depends the sets I'm doing. I'm always a bit nervous before I start. And it depends how long I'm DJing. Some nights I'm DJing for like 5-6 hours straight. So those are long nights. If it's like, I haven't really had, I guess I'd be nervous if tomorrow you say, hey, come play this festival. I'd be very nervous because I've never played a festival. But even the clubs that I play often, I always get a bit nervous. And I think it's important to do, because like it means that there's things at stake. If you're not nervous and you don't care, then that energy is going to transmit. You're like, oh, he's just chilling, he doesn't care. But if you're a bit nervous, try to have a bit of attention to detail, you're like, right, I don't want to mess up, and you have a bit of that energy before you go on, immediately it kind of like makes you concentrate more. It helps me concentrate.
Interesting.
And it helps me get into a mood I want faster. If I don't care, I might be like looking for tracks like, oh, maybe this, maybe that. If I'm a bit nervous, I'm more like looking around, like what's going on? Okay, I'll play this. Okay, I'll play that. And you're more attentive. It gives you energy, because it's a bit of stress definitely helps me out. And I'm nervous every time. I could be playing in my yard for my family. I'd be a tiny bit nervous at the start, always. Because it's like, all right, the moment I press play, it's game on, and I can't stop for the next 5 hours.
We're at about an hour here, just over. I'm wondering, is there anything you want to touch on before we sign off?
Oh yeah, one thing I'd like to touch on for especially starting artists, that songwriters, etc., that revolves around like record deals, right? Because a lot of people that are around my age are like, how do you get a record deal? What should you look after in it, etc., etc., etc. First of all, if you're not known and you don't have traction, you're gonna get shitty record deals. That's for sure. Like the first record deal I signed, I knew it was a bad record deal, but I had tracks and I didn't really care too much what was going to happen to them. I just wanted to see what was going to happen. It's like, I've never worked with a label before. This is a small label. It's all going to be digital. I know my songs are good, so if people find them, I'll be happy with it. I want to see how the label handles it. You're going to get a bad deal at the start, but I wanted to do it to see how it would work out. So I got really bad royalty shares, etc., etc. The tracks didn't do well at all. Since the label won't do more than you, it will probably do less unless you're a big act and try to impose themselves. You might be able to change a few little things in the record deal, but not that much because, again, you don't have traction. It's all about leverage. It's always all about leverage. It's like, do you need them or do they need you? Do they want you, But so all these details about money, copyright, you're not going to get good rates at the start if that's what you want to do. If you want to get into record deals, you can most likely release stuff by yourself. At the start, it's better because you can spend like $20, go on like CD Baby, DistroKid, TuneCore. There's like a billion services and your songs on every platform, etc. I'd only say sign with the label when you're starting off if they can really bring value to your release and push your release in a good way. So one thing I would ask labels mostly when you're starting out and have no leverage is just ask them, what's your release strategy for the record? Are you going to promote it? Is it going to be pushed for radio? Are you going to spend money on marketing ads for like social media, stuff like that? Like, what are you going to do with this? Because sometimes you might sign off like 80% of your royalties and all the label does is upload it to the distribution platforms and then they post once about it on Facebook, once about it on Instagram, and then they just let it sit there. They're like, new release, here you go. And they did nothing to promote it. And at that point, it's like, all right, why did I give away more than half my work, like more than half my percentage to them, if at the end of the day they're doing something that I could be doing myself, So ask for a release strategy, because today release strategy is very important. You need to be on social media, you need to be pushing on all the platforms. It needs to be something that resonates with you. I know some people in the underground scene, their release strategy is like, I want to release with a label that only prints to vinyl and does 250 copies and no repress. And that's their goal. And that can really work well because it can help selling out CDs really fast. It's like, that's what I want. It's like, all right, find a label that does that. You want a label that's going to spend money on ads, on marketing, and on pushing Spotify playlists. Find a label that does that. Find a label that's able to offer that. Because at the start, you're not going to make money. You're not. Don't think you're going to release a record being small and make $5 million off of it. It's not going to happen. You have to build your career first. So try finding labels where you're willing to give out a big chunk of the money made by the record if you see that there's some return in terms of traction, of how you're being pushed as an artist. Because it's too easy to just sign a paper, give away all your rights, and then the record just puts it out and does nothing. It's like, really? Like the first record deal I signed, I was doing more promotion than the label. I felt like that's what it felt like for me. So I was like, oh, this is a bit disappointing, So learn about the music industry and the business for the rates, etc., etc. That's always important. But as a starting artist, the release strategy is important, knowing what they're going to do with your music. Because in today's world, you have internet. It's super easy to have music on distributors. With $50, you can have music everywhere, without the need of a label anymore. So
100%. I
look out for that.
I definitely think they act very differently than what they used to be. I feel like they used to be like the DistroKid, the CD Baby. They actually did the distributing, but now it seems that they are more on the marketing side of things, in my opinion. And I also feel that they will not care about your music as much as you do as an artist. And because it's your creation, it's your baby, you've been growing it since you started, not just this one song, but all the skills leading up to the one song. So it means a lot to you. Of course, it means a lot to them as well, because they're invested in you. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be putting in the extra work that you probably will. So I feel that, especially
that's what
starting,
you have to do.
Yeah, 100%.
So starting at a young age, like try to build stuff for yourself, having a couple of releases that maybe you did yourself, and try to build a following so you can get labels interested. Because once labels are interested in your work, then you have leverage. If a label comes to you, you say, we like your stuff, we want to release this, then you're the one with the leverage. So then you can be like, okay, you want to release this, but I would like this, and that. And you can work your way up. If you're no one, just knocking on doors, like it's good to do it so you know what you're given. Like I did it because I was like, who wants to release this? What are the deals I'm going to get? So you have kind of a point of reference. Like I started at the lowest of the low. So now I know that it's all up from here and I know what to look out. If I get another deal, I'm like, all right, I don't want to sign this for this reason. If you don't change that, it's a no-go for me. I'm not interested in that, or I'm not interested in this percentage or whatever. But at the start, you're not going to have that leverage. I still don't have a lot of it right now. I'm just starting out my career as a musician, as a DJ and producer, but really strategy. For me, what's most important to me right now is really strategy. It's if I'm working with somebody, I want to be sure they're able to push my art that's in a way that's going to get me to gain traction. Maybe I want a really strategy that gets me more plays on Spotify. Maybe I want a really strategy that gets me a bigger following on Instagram, stuff like that. So for me, that's what's most important right now, because I don't have a lot of leverage and I want to build myself as an artist and try to push myself through different releases, but doing them in a smart way, that if I see a label can't do what I want to do, I'll try and do it myself and see how it works out. I have nothing to lose right now. That's the thing. You have nothing to lose at the start. And most people are afraid, like, oh, but my music is not that great. Maybe I should not release it. Put it out. In 6 months from now, you're going to be like, this is crap. I've put out tracks that I listen to out now, and I'm like, this is horrendous. Yeah. How did I think this was good? But if you don't have that point of reference, you're never going to know.
Yeah, and I purposely leave my old music up just so people can see how far I've come. And
yeah, the journey is important.
The journey and the growth. And even like when I'm feeling down, I feel like, wow, I have such a big road ahead of me. I look back and see how much I've accomplished. And yeah, as an artist, you're not going to like your first few songs that you put out, but I guess it's just part of the way of the artist, part of being one.
Everyone has
got to go through that.
Every artist on the planet, every artist that has ever existed, I can guarantee you the first song they ever wrote was crap, except maybe like Mozart or Beethoven, because those like learn to play piano before they learn how to walk. But except for a couple of like very specific geniuses, most people, they start by writing crap, but they just never stop until it becomes good and they get good at it.
The other thing is we're the biggest critics. So yeah, you're going to put it out. You're actually going to figure out, you're going to get way more love and like respect and all this kind of stuff than you thought you ever would.
Yeah, definitely. Of all the stuff I've put out, I've definitely been the one who's beaten myself up the most about it. Of all the people, because most people, if they don't like it, they don't care. They just move along. They're not going to stick around and be like, this is garbage. We hate you. Screw you. We hate. Some people will, I guess. I don't know why, but some people do. Whatever. Don't worry about them. But most people, if they don't like it, they just pass along. Which to me is like a very important critic. Like indifference as an artist is not something you want to strive for. Like me personally, that's the biggest thing I look at. It's like if people don't give a shit, it means I'm doing something wrong. If I get a response, then I might be onto something. Maybe it's not, maybe I'm getting a lot of negative response, like, okay, I might not want to do that, but at least you're getting a response. Right. When you're being indifference doesn't help you grow. It's just people passing by and they don't care. It's like, why don't they care? I need to figure something out. So it gets you, regardless of the feedback, it gets you going. But, man, I ramble a lot. Huh? This is my first podcast. I'm sorry.
I love it. I feel like we've brought a lot of value through this podcast, especially this one episode. It's been amazing.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's been amazing having you on.
Hopefully.
Why don't you go ahead and shout out your Insta, all your social medias?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Alex Lowen Music everywhere. Alex Lowen Music, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Alex Lowen. At Alex Lowen Music everywhere. Thanks a lot for having me on the podcast, man.
Okay, thanks for coming. We really appreciate you and have a good rest of your day.